Imagine standing at Niagara Falls in the late 1800s, and for the first time ever, you see rushing water that was being turned into hydroelectricity that could power homes, factories, and even entire cities in the near future. What was once just a natural water source that could be beautifully ran now suddenly became a source of progress and change. I've researched the history of energy, and hydroelectricity stands out because of how long and important its journey has been, from simple water wheels to massive power plants. Today I'm going to explain that history. Hydroelectricity began with the early water wheels and then once was developed into hydroelectric plants, and eventually it grew into the large dams that we have in modern systems today. First, I will explain the early uses of water power. Second, I will show how the first hydroelectric plants were built. And then third and finally, I will discuss how hydroelectricity expanded into modern systems that we have today. Let's begin by looking how our first water power source was used in the late. Long before electricity, people figured out that moving water could do the work. Water wheels were built in ancient Greece, Rome, and China, and these machines were mainly used to grind grain, saw wood, and pump water, and create simple power tools to build cities and homes. According to the OPACE in 2002 article in Renewable and Sustainable Energy Reviews, water wheels was one of the first technologies to capture force and use it for practical work. And these devices were built along rivers, streams, or anywhere that running or flowing water could power a directed spinning wheel. This technology spread across civilizations. In medieval Europe, water wheels became central to village life, helping mills grind flour that could provide grain to entire communities. In China, however, water-powered devices helped irrigate rice fields. These examples show that water wasn't just about machines, that it could help with survival, growth, and progress. Although they were simple, these early wheels marked an important turning point in history that showed humans that they could harness nature's power to get work done and make life easier, a lesson that would later inspire the development of hydroelectricity. And now that we've seen how water power started, let's move on to the very first hydroelectric plant. The first hydroelectric power plant was built in 1882 in Appleton, Wisconsin. According to the U.S. Department of Energy's website on the history of hydropower, this plant was just a small turbine that was used to power a paper mill and a few homes. But even though it was small, it showed that water could be turned into electricity and it could be used for practical use and everyday use. Soon after, much larger projects followed, like the one of the famous at Niagara Falls, where the sheer power of rushing water drove turbines. This plant showed that hydroelectricity wasn't just for small businesses, and it could power entire towns and industries. In 2019, an article in Energy Research and Social Science, Daniel Rees explains that during the late 19th century and early 20th century, hydroelectricity technology spread quickly across the world. Engineers had built dams and more advanced turbines at the same time. Hydroelectricity could now travel long distances and power lines. That meant plants were no longer sheltered to homes that lived near them. They could travel across power lines to power cities across countries, or even just small towns. Now, after that the first plants were built, hydroelectricity expanded to the modern systems we know today. By the 20th century, hydroelectricity became one of the most important power sources in the world. And one of the best examples is the Hoover Dam, completed in 1936 in their 2006 in the big dams of the New Deal era. David Billington and Donald Jackson describe how the Hoover Dam wasn't just about power. It was a progress and turning point that showed that electricity could be used for homes and factories, and the Hoover Dam also helped control flooding in the Colorado River and gave farmers water for their irrigation and crops. The Hoover Dam became a symbol of engineering and strength, and other nations took notice. Around the same time, countries like Canada, Brazil, and China began building their own hydroelectric projects. These dams created reservoirs and provided clean electricity and water and helped with water management. Even today, hydroelectricity remains one of the leading renewable energy sources worldwide, and the International Agency reported in 2024 that hydropower was just second to fossil fuels. And not only does it power cities, but it also reduces carbon emissions by replacing coal and oil and other fossil fuels. From small water wheels to ancient villages and dams that that power entire regions, hydroelectricity shows how humans have continually learned to capture the energy and water use to build societies. Now that I have explained the history of hydroelectricity, let's conclude with one key takeaway, or the key takeaway. Hydroelectricity has a long and important history. It began with water wheels and advanced to the first hydroelectric plants in the 1800s, and eventually it grew to the modern systems like the Hoover Dam to power entire regions and countries. The story of hydroelectricity shows that humans learned to harness the force of moving water through progress and sheer will. What started as a simple tool for villages and homes simply became one of the most important renewable energy sources with a long history that needed to be explained.